In this episode, I want to talk about how I discovered Final Fantasy. Hello everyone, welcome to Front Flip Gaming, a quite feeble attempt at a video game podcast. This is episode 1, How I Discovered Final Fantasy. In this episode, I want to talk about how I discovered Final Fantasy. So everyone has their story of how they discovered the franchise, so here's mine. I was in 7th grade. My brother had a friend who was actually a classmate in my grade. My classmate let my brother borrow a copy of Final Fantasy VII for the original PlayStation. I think this was like 1997. Because of sibling rivalry, I automatically didn't want to play the game. I didn't want to like the game. I'm like, okay, that's your thing, that's your game. You can play it, you can borrow it, you enjoy it, and I'll just play my own games. So I did end up playing a little bit of it, but I remember, like I said, I didn't want to like it, so I was like, what is this large white glove on the screen? Why is there so much text? This game is dumb. I don't want to like it. I'm not going to like it. And so one day I had to go to a doctor's appointment with my mom, and so my mom took me to the doctor's. There was a TB test that I had to take, and we were there for the results, and I ended up being positive. And at that moment, I remember being just terrified because I didn't know what that meant. I knew that you were supposed to be negative, like the normal is negative. My mom and I were surprised that it ended up being positive. The doctor said, don't worry, he's not gonna die, which I don't know if that was meant to be reassuring or what, but in retrospect, it's such a weird thing to say. Maybe that's normal. I don't know. At that moment, it's like, why is the doctor saying I'm not gonna die? That's so weird. My mom actually laughed at my doctor saying that. Of course he's not gonna die. That's ridiculous. But I was just so terrified and uncomfortable and just kind of disturbed. I was in 7th grade. I was just a kid. So we went home after that, and my mom went to eat dinner with the rest of my family. And I went straight to my room because I was just so kind of disoriented. I picked up Final Fantasy VII and just started playing, and I just kept playing and playing and playing. For me in that moment, it was such a beautiful distraction. I just wanted any sort of distraction. I didn't want to think of the fear I had at that moment. I just wanted to get away from it. So this game, Final Fantasy VII, I ended up loving it. And that happens, I think, a lot. In the beginning, you think you don't like something or you think you hate something, but you end up loving it. That's how I was with Cowboy Bebop. I hated it in the beginning. I was like, this is so boring. It's just long shots of space and nothing's happening. And it ended up being my favorite anime of all time. So prior to Final Fantasy VII, I had never played any Final Fantasy. I had heard of the franchise, but I'd never played any of the games. And since then, I have played 7, 8, 9, 10, 10-2, 12, 13, 15, and Remake. And Final Fantasy is my favorite video game franchise of all time. And Final Fantasy VII was the first one, and it's probably my favorite game of all time. I know it's a lot of people's favorite games, and I think it's something about that time. During that time, maybe people my age were just discovering it. I know a lot of people really love 6. I've played a little bit of 6, but I never finished it. I never really got into it. Maybe I should go back and give it another shot, but 7 is just my jam. It's like my super jam. So that's all I wanted to talk about for my first episode. I do have a podcast, but as of this moment, actually, I have 7 episodes of the audio podcast already recorded, but the podcast is called Front Flip Gaming. So do you like Final Fantasy? Which one is your favorite, and why is it 7? Do you have a favorite Final Fantasy? Do you have a least favorite Final Fantasy? Let me know. I don't know. All right, that's all I got. See you next time on the Front Flip.